Brook Bellows was raped at 11 years old. She eventually ran away from a family that was in distress in search of anything that might stop the nightmares. In less than 2 days on the Sunset Strip in LA, she was kidnapped, beaten into submission, forced into drug addiction, and indoctrinated into the horrific world of human trafficking. She considered suicide. Today, Brook Bellows is an author, a filmmaker, a thought leader, a justice advocate. She was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by President Obama in 2016 for her work fighting human trafficking. And here's Brook Bellows' message as memorialized in a political ad I did in last year's governor's race in Illinois.
My name is Dr. Brook Bellows, and I'm not a political figure. I'm a survivor. When I was a young girl, I was trafficked, drugged, and raped. The traffickers forced me to have multiple abortions. Last year, I begged Governor Pritzker to preserve the right of parents to know if their daughters were about to undergo an abortion. Governor Pritzker didn't listen to me, but I hope that you will.
Is that one of the ways we should message on abortion going forward? Help tell the stories of people like Brook Bellows who've been victimized and more easily victimized because of the profligacy with respect to abortion on demand, all 9 months, taxpayer funded in places like Illinois? I don't know. I mean, it didn't win the day in Illinois, obviously.
No.
There were some other factors, I would say, in that race.
But it was an effective ad, I'll tell you that. And we had her on the program, too, to talk about it. But if only her parents knew. If only there was parental consent.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the thing. It's this like up or down on legalization of abortion. That's not really the discussion. But to be fair to those who are jumpy within the Republican ranks, who are jumpy about abortion, want to compromise, want to do more than compromise, just retreat altogether, you can't say nothing. You have to make cases, and you have to tell stories to drive understanding of the arguments being made and the distinctions between the side, the people who are on the side of life and the people who are not. For more on this conundrum pro-lifers and, by extension, the Republican Party is facing, pleased to be joined by attorney and fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, Mary FioRito. Mary, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again, Dan and Amy. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, the results of the Issue 1 referendum in Ohio, the electoral results in Virginia and in Kentucky, where the Dems made abortion rights a big issue. And so you know what the reaction is this morning. I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure you're thinking about it and talking to people about it. What's your reaction about as to how we discuss, how we message this issue?
Well, I mean, a couple of starting points. I think in particular what happened in Ohio truthfully doesn't represent or reflect the views not only of people in Ohio but of America writ large. I mean, you look at any poll that's been taken since 1973 all the way up until the Dobbs decision, and most Americans are really comfortable with a restriction somewhere after 6 to 12 weeks with exceptions for rape and incest. That's really where the vast majority of American people are. What Ohio did yesterday was to legalize abortion, or as they're saying in some of the media reports, enshrine abortion up until the moment of birth. It removed parental notification. It removed parental consent. It removed a restriction on sex selection abortions. So now a baby girl can be aborted for no other reason than being a baby girl. I think the ad that Governor DeWine and his wife put out prior to the vote really was, I thought it was spot on, because he said, even if you are pro-choice, this is not Ohio. This is not what we believe collectively. All of that being said, then of course we know there were at least 2 to 3 times more $1 million poured in by the abortion industry into the Ohio race and into the Virginia races in particular than what the pro-life movement could come up with. So we know that we were outspent 2-1, probably closer to 3-1. I think we might need to come up with a new way to talk about this issue in a way that candidates feel comfortable talking about it, in a way that the American people really understand what they're voting for. So, for example, in Ohio, they had a multitude of these television ads that talked about things like treatment for ectopic pregnancy, which has never been on the table, right? I mean, treatment for miscarriages, never been on the table in terms of making it illegal. There was one couple who had a very severely disabled child, a very deceptive ad. I wrote about this in Human Life Review, in fact, where they implied in this television ad that was massively funded that Ohio law would have prohibited them from having an abortion. And actually what Ohio law prohibited was their health insurance paying for it, because they had restrictions on what public health insurance could be used for. And, they could have had it, but the insurance wouldn't pay for it because the woman's life or health wasn't threatened. So, you had all of this working together. But again, as I'm saying, I do think we need to find a way to talk about this issue that is meeting what people's real concerns are. And that's probably going to take some digging in terms of why people voted the way they did.
Well, what suggestions do you have to make change?
Well, okay, so Amy, here's one of the things I've been giving a lot of thought to. Abortion is very much part of what I call the sexual economy that exists right now in the country. And this was even raised during the Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision in the plurality opinion from the Supreme Court. Justice O'Connor wrote, "People have organized intimate relationships and made choices that define their views of themselves and their places in society in reliance on the availability of abortion in the event that their contraception should fail." So women and men have organized their lives, and particularly their sexual relationships and intimate relationships, around abortion being available. And so it benefits men in a particular way. And I mean, we saw this very tragically in the case of Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, where she talks about how he got her pregnant. She really wanted that child. He coerced her basically into having that abortion because it benefited him. And then he left her anyway and went and started a relationship with another woman. So we see that many young people, the dating and mating and marriage market has changed so dramatically that sexual relations come into that kind of arena much earlier than they used to, say, even in the 80s and 90s, right? I mean, now, with the hookup culture, young women are expected to have sex with someone to start the dating relationship rather than somewhere down the road or even at engagement or marriage, what have you. So some of that mindset needs to change as well before we're able to see the other person involved in the abortion clearly, which is the unborn child.
Wow, that's going to be a really tough sell because we're so far afield from that. I mean, just unbelievably far afield from where the culture is at. And, what you're going to have in the vacuum, if we don't come up with something that is compelling and persuasive, is people retreating and surrendering. That's what I'm worried about.
Right. And again, as we approach the 2024 elections, I think people in the pro-life movement who are more comfortable articulating the issue and are comfortable with it need to be sitting down in one-on-ones with candidates. I think that's what it's going to take, real grassroots outreach to people who want to run and who are pro-life in order to help them work around the lies and the misinformation that's out there. I mean, for example, just to go back to Ohio for a second.
Yeah, but just hold on a second, because, the response, this is, to me, part of the problem is you talked about the misinformation and the misdirection from the pro-abort side in Ohio. And here should be the response. But the problem is we're always in the response posture. We're not proactively pushing a vision, pushing a message on the topic independent from responding to the pro-abortion side. And it seems to me that that's the question we have to answer first. Obviously, you need to respond to mischaracterizations of your views, but people need to understand what they are first before they understand that they've been mischaracterized.
Right. No, and that's why I love how Carrie Lake handled it, for example. Really got out in front of it, talked about the other side's extremism, which I think we need to do too. I mean, I went back to look at this morning. Cincinnati Children's Hospital, so again, right smack in the middle of Ohio, they did a successful fetal surgery. They have a fetal surgery center that did successful surgery on an unborn child at 16 weeks. I mean, at babies that same age will be aborted without anesthesia. They're doing surgery on babies that age with anesthesia. We need to get out in front with stories like that and with facts like that. And then again, point out the stories of the Dr. Brook Bellows. What Ohio has done now, they have given carte blanche to really bad actors now, not only to sex traffickers, but also to abortionists who are not going to be monitored because the health and safety standards for abortion clinics have now been removed by Ohio voters. I mean, it was interesting to see the two Irish journalists who documented the Gosnell trial, the Kermit Gosnell trial from Philadelphia. They have a whole traveling exhibit now of all the evidence pictures from Gosnell's murder trial, and they were on display in Columbus, Ohio for weeks, and the media there would not cover it.
Well, of course.
Getting out in front with stories like that. Like, look, this is what happens when you deregulate abortion. Bad actors like this come in, they set up shop, no one's watching them, they're making money hand over fist, and women die and babies die.
What do you think I just want to get your reaction to this as tactical messaging in a state that is where abortion is generally speaking legal. Let's say a state like I don't know, somewhere in the middle. It's not abortion on demand all 9 months, taxpayer funded like in Illinois or California, but it's restrictions in the last trimester and late term abortions and maybe even a parental notification law. Some state
right.
like that. So abortion is going to be legal in that state because that's the decision the state's made. That's where the balance of power is in that state. And you're a candidate running for office, either federal or state. It really doesn't matter for the purposes of this discussion. What if, and you're a pro-lifer, how would pro-lifers react if you jujitsu'd the issue on the pro-aborts? If you took their slogan from a bygone era and said, my position is the position that the pro-abortionists say they have, which is safe, legal, and rare. So
right.
safe, legal, and rare. That's what we want with respect to abortion, and that's where I'm at on the issue. Is that a cop-out if you're a pro-lifer? Is that politically savvy? Is it too cute by half? What do you think of something like that?
Well, because that was the calculation that the Clinton campaign came up with, if I recall correctly. That was the Clinton White House that came up with that slogan because they had surveyed extensively on what messaging would work with most voters at the time, and safe, legal, and rare is what they came up with. And I think it is a good place to start. I mean, rare, we do want to reduce numbers. Safe, meaning we want regular clinic inspections. I mean, one of the things that came out with the Gosnell trial, right, was, this is directly from the grand jury report. Nail salons were more frequently inspected in the state of Pennsylvania than abortion clinics were, because there was such a protection for abortion clinics that didn't exist for other ambulatory healthcare facilities.
Right.
So
same in Illinois. Right.
Right. Exactly. So safe, and then the legal thing that might not where I am and where I want to be. It might be the political reality, and I think that tactic, Dan, is much better than playing what we talked about just at the beginning of this, playing whack-a-mole with all the lies, right? Because that could just go on endlessly, and then you never get your own message out, to your point. So it's a place to start. It's not ideal, but in this particular climate, and now we've seen, loss after loss with these ballot initiatives, clearly we got to switch up something because we can't keep losing these major ballot initiatives. Now, the good thing is they can be undone, right? A ballot initiative that's voted in can be voted out, but that's going to take years to accomplish, practically speaking.
Mary FioRito is an attorney. She's also a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Mary, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks to you both. Have a great morning.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Eating balance of nature, fruits and veggies, is not replacing the fruits and vegetables in your diet. It is fruits and vegetables in your diet. Ask yourself, how many servings of fruits and vegetables have I eaten today? Have you eaten 1, 2, 3, and from how many varieties? Most people are less than 3. Our body is